I refused to sign a loan for my son-in-law, who had been using my money as an ATM for years. My own daughter, whom I had supported for many years, coldly said, "Then don't expect to stay here long." I decided I couldn't take it anymore and left on my own. Later, they begged me to come back. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The dinner plates clinked against each other as I arranged them around the mahogany table. March evenings in Seattle still carried winter's bite, but our dining room felt warm. Too warm, maybe. Mark had that look again, the one where his eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning, fingers dancing across his tablet screen. Alex, perfect timing. He swiveled the device toward me. Charts and graphs glowed blue against the darkened kitchen. "I've been working on something incredible." Sarah paused mid-step, a serving bowl of mashed potatoes suspended in her hands. "Show him, honey." I continued setting forks. My movements automatic after 5 years of living here. The family photos on the sideboard caught my peripheral vision. Sarah's wedding, the kids' graduations, Thanksgiving dinners, 15 years of memories, 15 years of checks written, mortgages paid, emergencies covered. "This is it, Alex." Mark's voice carried that entrepreneur's confidence I'd grown to recognize. "My IT startup. We've got the software platform ready. Beta testing complete. I just need backing for the servers and office space." The tablet tilted toward me again. Numbers jumped out. $200,000 initial investment. Projected returns, market analysis. My chest tightened. "I know you've always supported us," Mark continued, leaning forward. "This time it's different. This isn't a loan. It's an investment in our future. Sarah's future. The kids' future." My hands stopped moving. The last fork hovered above the final place setting. "Mark." The word came out rougher than I intended. "I've been helping financially for 15 years. Sarah's head snapped up. "Dad, this is huge for us. I'm tired of being your ATM." Silence crashed over the room like a wave. The serving bowl in Sarah's hands trembled slightly. Mark's tablet screen dimmed to black. Sarah's face transformed. Color drained from her cheeks, then flooded back in angry red patches. Her voice, when it came, carried a coldness that made the March air outside seem tropical. "Then don't expect to stay here much longer." The fork slipped from my fingers, clattering against the hardwood floor. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." Sarah set the bowl down with deliberate force. Mashed potatoes sloshed over the rim. "If you're not part of this family's success, maybe you shouldn't be part of this family at all." Mark reached for her arm. "Sarah, let's just—" "No," she shook him off. "I'm tired of tiptoeing around this. We've given him a home for 5 years. 5 years. And now when we need him, really need him, he turns his back on us." The room spun slightly. 22 months ago, after Helen died, Sarah had insisted I move in. "Family takes care of family," she'd said. Now those same lips were telling me to leave. "Sarah, please." My voice sounded foreign, older than my 75 years. "I didn't mean—" "Save it." She turned toward the kitchen, her heels clicking against the floor like bullets. "Dinner's getting cold." I stood there staring at the unfinished place setting. The fork lay where it had fallen, catching light from the chandelier overhead. Mark cleared his throat, muttered something about checking emails, and retreated to his office. My legs felt unsteady as I walked toward the stairs. Each step echoed in the sudden quiet. Behind me, I heard Sarah moving around the kitchen, aggressively clattering dishes, making her anger known through sound. In my bedroom, I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed. The family photos on my nightstand seemed to mock me now. Sarah at 16, radiant in her prom dress. Sarah at 33, holding newborn Emma. Sarah last Christmas, arms wrapped around Mark, both of them grinning at the camera. When had gratitude become expectation? When had my help become entitlement? Outside my window, Seattle's skyline twinkled in the distance. Somewhere out there, other families were having dinner. Normal dinners. Dinners where love didn't come with price tags. Hours passed. The house had gone quiet, except for muffled voices from downstairs. Sarah and Mark arguing, their words indistinct but their anger crystal clear. The digital clock on my nightstand showed 9:17 p.m. when I finally moved. The filing cabinet in the corner had been my constant companion since Helen's death. Organization had always been my strength, a habit learned in the military and reinforced through decades of marriage. Every receipt, every check stub, every bank statement, all carefully categorized and stored. I pulled the bottom drawer open. The metal runners protested with a tired screech. Financial records. Sarah and Mark read the tab on the thickest folder, my handwriting precise and methodical. Inside, papers rustled as I spread them across my desk. Bank statements, canceled checks, transfer receipts, a paper trail of 15 years' worth of help that had somehow become obligation. The wedding came first. June 2009. The receipt from the venue, the caterer, the photographer. My signature on the bottom line. $50,000 for our princess, I told Helen then. She deserves a fairy tale. The calculator on my desk came to life with a soft beep. Numbers began accumulating. Monthly mortgage payments for $200, multiplied by 12 months, by 5 years since they bought the house. My pen scratched across notepad paper. $252,000, car payments for Sarah's SUV, Mark's sedan when his old one died, insurance premiums when their credit couldn't secure decent rates. Each check photographed with my phone before mailing, a habit Helen had taught me. Always keep records, Alex. The numbers grew. Emma's college tuition, $15,000 last semester alone. John's technical school, another $8,000. Christmas gifts, birthday celebrations, emergency repairs when their hot water heater flooded the basement. Medical bills when Mark's startup health insurance lapsed. Vacation funds for their anniversary trip to Hawaii. Sarah's root canal surgery that couldn't wait. For their dental coverage to kick in. My fingers moved across the calculator keys, like a pianist playing a funeral march. Each entry brought the total higher. $300,000, $350,000, $400,000. The phone on my nightstand seemed to watch as I reached for it. Wells Fargo's 24-hour customer service line answered on the second ring. This is Alex Miller, account number. I recited the digits I'd memorized decades ago. I need to cancel automatic transfers to account ending in 4739. I'll be happy to help with that, Mr. Miller. May I ask the reason for canceling these transfers? My reflection stared back from the darkened window. Gray hair, tired eyes, but something new in the set of my jaw. I'm tired of being taken for granted. Sir, cancel the transfers. 20 minutes later, I hung up the phone and returned to my calculations. The final tally made my breath catch. $487,000, nearly $500,000 over 15 years. Helen's life insurance money, my military pension, our savings from 40 years of careful living, all of it flowing to a daughter who thought I owed her more. The power of attorney documents lay at the bottom of the folder. Sarah's name in neat legal print, giving her access to my accounts for convenience and emergency purposes. My signature from 3 years ago, when recovering from knee surgery made bank visits difficult. I fed the papers through my desk shredder, watching legal authority transform into confetti strips. For the first time in hours, I smiled. Tomorrow would bring changes. Tonight, though, I'd sleep better than I had in months. My laptop screen glowed to life. Seattle apartment rentals, downtown high-rises with city views, quiet neighborhoods near bus lines, one-bedroom places where the only family obligations would be to myself. The house around me creaked and settled, but I barely heard it. I was already planning my escape. Friday morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the downtown Seattle apartment, casting geometric shadows across hardwood floors. Kate Anderson, the realtor, gestured toward the kitchen with professional enthusiasm. Perfect for one person, Mr. Miller. Walking distance to Pike Place Market, bus routes to everywhere you'd want to go. I nodded, barely listening to her practiced pitch. The space felt right. Clean, quiet mine. The park across the street has benches, where residents like to read. She pointed through the living room window. Very peaceful after years of chaos. I'll take it. Kate paused mid-sentence, her smile faltering slightly. Don't you want to see the bedroom? The bathroom? We haven't discussed lease terms or I need peace more than square footage. I pulled out my checkbook. First month's rent and security deposit. 2 hours later, I sat in my truck outside the Bellevue house. Sarah's car was gone. Her Friday shift at the cafe wouldn't end until 3. Mark's sedan was missing too, probably at his co-working space, chasing another big idea. The house key felt heavier than usual as I unlocked the front door. Moving through rooms I'd called home for 5 years. I made swift decisions. The photo albums from my marriage, mine. My military service medals from the bedroom dresser, mine. The leather recliner Helen had bought me. For my 70th birthday, theirs. They'd grown accustomed to its presence. The piano in the living room had been Helen's pride. Sarah had claimed it after the funeral, said it would be perfect. For when Emma brought her kids around someday, let her keep those dreams. Boxmax. Moving service arrived at noon, with 3 workers and a truck that barely fit in the driveway. The crew leader, a young man with gentle eyes, approached carefully. Mr. Miller, we have you down for a 1-bedroom move. Senior discount applied. That's right. I handed him a handwritten list. Everything marked with blue tape goes. Everything else stays. What about the piano, sir? It's a beautiful piece. I watched through the window as they loaded my desk, my books, my carefully packed memories. Leave it. It belongs to someone else now. The hardest part was Helen's jewelry box. Sarah had insisted I keep it. Said maybe someday I'd want to give pieces to Emma or future granddaughters-in-law. But those conversations would happen on my terms now, if they happened at all. The envelope I left on the kitchen table was plain white. No rich design, just simple paper. Inside, a single sheet with 2 paragraphs. Sarah and Mark. I've moved out. The keys are on the counter. You'll find I've canceled my financial support. You wanted independence from my expectations. I'm giving you independence from my assistance. Don't contact me until you're ready to apologize. My new address will remain private until then. Alex. My phone rang as I was signing paperwork. In my new apartment. Sarah's name on the caller ID. Dad, what is this? Your stuff is gone. There's a note. I moved out. You can't just leave. This is your home. Mark's voice joined the call through speakerphone. Alex, we can work this out. The startup thing, we can find other investors. You told me not to expect to stay much longer. My voice stayed level, calm. I took your advice. I was angry. I didn't mean, don't come looking for me. Don't call again. Until you're ready to have a real conversation about respect. I ended the call and powered off the phone. Through my new apartment window, Seattle's evening lights began twinkling on. Tomorrow I'd explore my neighborhood, find a good coffee shop, maybe visit the library. Tonight, though, I'd order pizza and eat it at my own pace, in my own space, with no one expecting anything from me, except the tip for delivery. The revolving doors of First National Bank spun me into a world of marble floors and hushed conversations. Monday morning in downtown Seattle carried the weight of serious business, and I felt ready for it. My appointment with James Clark was scheduled for 9:30, but I'd arrived early. Preparation had become my new religion. Mr. Miller. James stood from behind his mahogany desk, extending a firm handshake. 20 years younger than me, probably, but his gray suit commanded respect. I have your account information pulled up. We settled into his office overlooking Pike Street. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched commuters hurrying to their responsibilities while I prepared to shed mine. You want to cancel the automatic transfer of $4,200 monthly? His eyebrows lifted slightly. That's been running for 5 years without interruption. Yes. I pulled out the folder I'd organized over the weekend. I'd like to review exactly how much has been transferred in total. James typed commands into his computer with practiced efficiency. Numbers cascaded across his monitor. His expression grew more serious as the tally climbed. Jesus, he caught himself. Excuse me. The total is $487,000 over 15 years. That includes mortgage payments, but also smaller transfers, emergency funds, tuition payments. Let them pay for their own house. The finality in my voice seemed to surprise him. He printed the statement summary. The pages warm from the laser printer. Each line item represented another piece of my independence. I'd traded for family harmony. By noon, I was sitting across from Robert Pfizer, in his law office 3 blocks away. His secretary had squeezed me in. After I mentioned asset protection and estate planning in the same breath, lawyers appreciated urgency when it came with billable hours. Asset protection at your age is wise. Robert spread documents across his conference table, like a general planning battle strategy. Irrevocable trusts, homestead exemptions, offshore considerations if necessary. I want to protect what's left from any claims my daughter might make. Robert's pen paused above his legal pad. Family disputes can get complicated. The best defense is proper structure, before problems arise. We spent 2 hours crafting barriers around my remaining nest egg. Nevada asset protection trusts, beneficiary designations, executive appointments. Emma's name appeared throughout the paperwork. As primary beneficiary, she'd always been honest with me, never demanding, never manipulating. Emma gets everything through the trust, Robert explained as I signed document after document. Your daughter has no legal claim to these assets once the trust is established. The notary public arrived at 3 o'clock, a stern woman who verified signatures, with military precision. Each stamp felt like another lock clicking into place. My financial fortress was becoming impregnable. Walking back to my apartment, I carried a leather portfolio filled with certified copies. The weight of it felt lighter than the mortgage payments I'd been shouldering for years. My phone buzzed as I climbed the stairs to my unit. Text message from an unknown number. Dad, it's Mark. We need to talk. Coming by tonight at 7. I deleted the message without replying. Let him come. I had legal documents now, and something more valuable. The knowledge that I could say no without consequences that mattered. The afternoon sun slanted through my living room windows as I filed the trust papers in my new cabinet. Everything organized, everything protected. Everything finally mine to control. My doorbell would ring soon enough. 7 o'clock arrived with mathematical precision, followed by the chime of my doorbell. Through the peephole, Mark's face appeared distorted, but recognizable. His expression carefully arranged into apologetic lines. A bouquet of yellow roses occupied his left hand. Store-bought peace offering. Alex. He stepped inside without invitation, scanning my sparse apartment with poorly concealed disappointment. Nice place, very minimalist. I accepted the flowers with neutral politeness, setting them on the kitchen counter, without seeking a vase. Sarah sent you? She was upset after what happened Wednesday. Mark settled onto my second-hand couch uninvited, crossing his legs with practiced confidence. You know how emotional she gets. She didn't mean what she said about you leaving. Sit down, Mark. I chose the armchair opposite him, maintaining distance. When did you last remember my birthday? His smile faltered. What? My birthday. When did you last remember it? Without Sarah reminding you? Mark's hands gestured vaguely. Entrepreneur energy-seeking direction. That's not really. We're talking about important family matters here. February 14th. I leaned back, watching his face process the information. Same day as Valentine's Day. Hard to forget, you'd think. But you have for 12 years running. Alex, that's different. We're discussing the family's financial future. I stood, moving to the kitchen window that overlooked the street. Mark's BMW sat parked illegally in a loading zone. Hazard lights blinking like an emergency that existed only in his mind. Hospital visit last spring. I kept my voice conversational. Knee replacement surgery. 3 days in recovery. I was busy with the quarterly reports. Sarah came once, brought flowers from the gift shop downstairs. You sent a card. Mark shifted forward, his tone growing sharper. What does this have to do with my business proposal? I'm offering you an investment opportunity, not asking for charity. $200,000 to someone who forgets my existence, unless he needs money. I turned from the window. That's not investment, Mark. That's delusion. His careful composure cracked. Fine, you want honesty? Sarah and I have been carrying this family for years. Hosting dinners, managing your social life, giving you purpose after Helen died. You owe us. My purpose now is peace, without your constant demands. Mark stood abruptly, pacing to my small dining table and back. You can't just abandon us. We have plans, commitments, people depending on us. Find another ATM. You'll regret this. His voice rose to a level that probably violated my lease agreement. When this opportunity passes you by, when you're sitting here alone, while we're successful, I'm already sitting here alone. The difference is I chose it. Mark grabbed his jacket from the couch arm, his movements sharp with frustration. This isn't over, Alex. Family doesn't just disappear because you're having some kind of senior moment. He slammed my door hard enough to rattle the frame. Through my window, I watched him storm toward his BMW, yanking his phone from his pocket before he reached the driver's door. The roses he'd brought sat abandoned on my counter, still wrapped in plastic, from whatever grocery store he'd chosen for maximum convenience and minimum thought. I was disposing of them in my trash can when headlights swept across my window. A silver sedan pulled up behind Mark's departed BMW, Sarah's car. She sat behind the wheel for several minutes, phone pressed to her ear, probably receiving Mark's debriefing on his failed mission. Tomorrow would bring her attempt. Tonight, though, I'd heat up leftover pizza and watch the news in peace. Friday afternoon brought Sarah to my doorstep with theatrical precision. I'd been expecting her visit since Tuesday night, when she'd driven past my building twice, in reconnaissance missions. I'd observed from my kitchen window. Dad! She stood outside my door, holding a white pastry box, her smile bright as stage lighting. I brought your favorite apple pie from Morrison's Bakery. The scent of cinnamon and false nostalgia. Followed her into my apartment. She dressed carefully. Soft blue sweater, minimal makeup. The outfit she wore when seeking sympathy, rather than commanding attention. Just like Mom used to make, she continued, placing the box ceremoniously on my counter. Remember how she'd bake one every Sunday after church? I remembered Helen burning more pie than she successfully completed, but saying so would derail Sarah's prepared script. Coffee? That would be lovely. We moved through the motions of domestic normalcy, measuring grounds, filling the machine, arranging plates we both knew would remain unused. Sarah perched on my couch with studied casualness, her purse positioned for easy access to tissues. I've been thinking about when you taught me to ride my bicycle. Her voice carried wistful undertones. You ran alongside me for 3 blocks, even though your back was bothering you. That was 40 years ago. You were always there for me. School plays, graduation, my wedding day. Her eyes glistened on cue. You've been the most supportive father any girl could ask for. The coffee machine finished brewing with mechanical indifference. I filled 2 cups, adding cream to hers, the way she'd preferred since childhood. Muscle memory from decades of caretaking. When did you last visit me? In the hospital after my surgery? Sarah's performance paused. Dad, I was overwhelmed with work. The kids were having problems. Mark came once, you sent flowers. That's not fair, you know how busy things get. Emma drove up from Tacoma twice that week. I settled into my armchair, maintaining eye contact. John called every day to check on me. Sarah's lower lip trembled with practiced vulnerability. Are you punishing me for being human? For having responsibilities? I'm choosing independence over obligation. The tears started then, genuine enough, despite their convenient timing. We'll lose the house without your help. The children will be homeless. Mark's business opportunity could save us, but only if we act quickly. Maybe it's time to find full-time work instead of part-time. Her crying stopped abruptly, replaced by sharp indignation. I work plenty, managing a household, supporting Mark's career, raising children. Emma's 20, John's 22. What children need raising? You've become cruel. Sarah reached for her purse, retrieving tissues with mechanical precision. Mom would be heartbroken, seeing what you've become. This isn't the father who raised me. The father who raised you is tired of being your financial safety net. She stood with wounded dignity, leaving the unopened pie box on my counter, like evidence of my heartlessness. Fine, but when you're sitting here alone, wondering why your family doesn't visit anymore, remember this conversation. After she left, I opened the pastry box. The pie looked perfect. Golden crust, decorative vents, professional presentation, store-bought sentiment in a homemade disguise. My phone chimed with a text message. 20 minutes later. John's name on the screen. Grandpa, can I come see you Sunday? Mom and Dad are acting weird. I smiled, typing back. Yes, bring your appetite. At least one family member seemed interested in conversation rather than commerce. Sunday afternoon brought John to my door with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no. He still had the key I'd given him years ago, but chose to knock, a small courtesy that surprised me. Hey, Grandpa. He slouched through my doorway, surveying my apartment with barely concealed disappointment. Mom said you moved somewhere tiny. His jeans hung low, work boots untied, flannel shirt wrinkled from sleeping in it. 22 years old, and still dressing like a teenager who'd given up trying. Coffee? I moved toward the kitchen, needing activity to process his presence. Sure. John flopped onto my couch without invitation, legs sprawling across cushions. I'd arranged carefully that morning. Nice place, I guess, very clean. The coffee maker gurgled to life. While I studied his reflection in the kitchen window, same stubborn jawline as his mother, same restless energy as his father, but Helen's eyes, gentle brown, with flecks of gold. So, Grandpa, I need a favor. His voice carried the practiced casualness of someone who'd rehearsed this conversation. $3,000. Credit card situation got a little out of hand. I poured 2 cups, adding cream to his, the way Helen used to. When are you planning to pay it back? You don't have a job. I'll find work soon. Maybe something with cars. You know, I'm good with engines. Frank Patterson's looking for a mechanic's assistant. I retrieved the business card from my wallet, where it had waited 3 weeks for this moment. $15 an hour, full benefits after 90 days. John's face scrunched into familiar patterns of resistance. Grandpa, I don't want to work for some random guy. I need quick cash to clear my debt. Then I'll figure out long-term stuff. The debt accumulated how? Just normal things, gas, food, clothes. Sometimes I helped friends out. Bars, video games, concert tickets. His posture shifted, shoulders hunching defensively. You've become cheap. You always used to help before. Remember when I needed money? For technical school. I remember paying $8,000 for welding certification you never completed. John stood abruptly, pacing to my window and back. That's different. I had other opportunities come up. Like what? Sleeping until noon? Playing online games until 3 a.m.? You don't understand how hard it is for my generation. Everything costs more. Jobs pay nothing. This is for your benefit. I held out Frank's card. Real skills, steady income, pride, and accomplishment. He slapped the card away, sending it fluttering to my kitchen floor. I don't need lectures about pride. I need $3,000. No. The word hung between us, like a door slamming shut. John stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Genuine shock that his grandfather might refuse him anything. Fine. He stomped toward my door, turning back with wounded fury. Don't expect me to visit anymore. Don't expect me to care when you're old and lonely. I'm already old, John, and I'm learning to prefer lonely over used. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle my neighbor's wind chimes. Through my window, I watched him stomp down the sidewalk, phone already pressed to his ear, probably calling Sarah to report his failed mission. My phone rang before John disappeared. Around the corner, Emma's name on the display. I stared at the screen, finger hovering, wondering what crisis would unfold next. Grandpa? Emma's voice carried exhaustion. That seemed too heavy for 20 years. I'm glad you picked up. It's chaos at home. Mom's screaming that everything's your fault. I settled into my armchair, watching John's distant figure disappear around the corner. What does Mark say about his wonderful business plan? He sold his BMW yesterday. Says the bank is threatening to take the house if they miss another mortgage payment. The satisfaction that bloomed in my chest felt warm and justified. 15 years of automatic transfers, and they couldn't last 2 weeks without my support. Maybe it's time for them to grow up, Emma. Mom took extra shifts at the cafe. She's working 60 hours a week, coming home exhausted and angry. They're fighting constantly about money. Wednesday morning found me, walking through Myrtle Edwards Park, cell phone buzzing with ignored calls from Sarah. The March sunshine felt warmer than it had in months. Or maybe freedom simply changed. How weather felt against my skin. My routine had become blissfully predictable. Coffee at 7, newspaper until 8, park walk by 9:30. No family emergencies interrupting breakfast. No guilt-laden phone calls during my afternoon reading time. The homeless man who fed pigeons near the sculpture garden nodded as I passed. We'd developed an unspoken understanding. Two men who'd chosen solitude over complicated relationships. "You look happier these days," he observed, scattering breadcrumbs to a growing crowd of birds, learning to live for myself. "Smart man. Family can drain you dry if you let them." At home, 17 text messages waited on my phone. Sarah's desperation escalating through the day. "Dad, please call. We can work this out. The bank wants $400 immediately or they start foreclosure. Mark's applying for loans, but his credit is terrible. I'm working double shifts. My feet are bleeding. The neighbors are talking about us. It's humiliating. You're destroying our family over money. Please, just this once, help us catch up." I deleted them without responding, then checked my bank balance online. My accounts showed healthy numbers, protected by legal documents Sarah couldn't touch. Robert Fisher had built an impressive fortress around my remaining assets. Emma called again at dinner time. While I was enjoying leftover soup, a luxury I'd forgotten, eating meals that stayed warm until I finished them. "Mom collapsed at work today. Exhaustion," they said. "She's okay." But Emma's voice cracked. "Grandpa, I understand why you're angry. But seeing her like this..." "Your mother chose this path, Emma. I offered reasonable boundaries. She chose manipulation instead. John came by today asking for money for rent. Mom screamed at him for 30 minutes about responsibility." Good, maybe she's learning. Through my kitchen window, downtown Seattle sparkled with evening lights. Somewhere out there, my daughter was working herself to exhaustion, trying to maintain a lifestyle my money had made possible. My son-in-law was discovering that charm couldn't pay mortgages. My grandson was facing consequences. For the first time in his adult life, I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt liberated. My evening routine continued undisturbed. News at 7, reading until 9. Early bedtime without family drama keeping me awake. The apartment that Sarah had called tiny felt perfectly sized for a man who'd spent 5 years accommodating other people's needs in every decision. Around 10 p.m., movement outside caught my attention. Through my living room window, I could see figures gathering near the building entrance. Mark's silhouette was unmistakable, gesturing emphatically to a group of people I couldn't identify in the streetlight shadows. They seemed to be organizing themselves, preparing for something. The way they moved suggested planning, coordination, purpose. I turned off my lights and watched from the darkness, counting heads. 5 people, maybe 6. More than just Mark and Sarah this time. The group approached my building with military precision. Mark in the lead, followed by Sarah, John, and 2 older figures I recognized as Mark's parents, Thomas and Linda Brown. Emma trailed behind them, her reluctance visible even from my 4th-floor window. I'd met the Browns maybe 6 times in 15 years. Thomas, a retired factory worker, who believed hard work solved everything, except his son's chronic irresponsibility. Linda, whose manipulative skills had clearly been inherited by her offspring. They disappeared into my building's lobby. 60 seconds later, aggressive knocking rattled my door. "Alex, open up. We need to talk." Thomas's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. I peered through my peephole at 6 faces arranged in what looked like an intervention formation. Mark held flowers again. Sarah clutched tissues. John sulked near the back. The Browns flanked them, like backup singers in a very uncomfortable musical. "Alex, you're destroying our family." Thomas pounded again when I didn't respond. "Mark is a good man trying to build something." I opened the door but maintained position in the threshold, controlling access to my space. "Your son used me as an ATM for 15 years. Family duty," Linda pushed forward, her voice shrill with practiced indignation. "You should be helping young people get established. I helped establish a pattern of dependency. I'm correcting that now." The hallway felt cramped, with 6 adults crowding my doorway. Mark gestured toward my apartment with his free hand. "Can we come in? This is too important for hallway conversations." "No." Sarah stepped closer, mascara already smudged from strategic tears. "Dad, I know you're upset, but this has gone too far. We could lose everything. Then maybe you should have thought about that before telling me not to expect to stay much longer." I was angry. I didn't mean..." "You meant it." I looked at each face in turn. "You all meant it. I was convenient when you needed money, disposable when you didn't. Thomas's face reddened with righteous anger. You're being selfish. At your age, you should be thinking about legacy, about helping the next generation. My legacy will be teaching responsibility, instead of enabling failure. John finally spoke from the back of the group. Grandpa, you're being mean. You never used to be like this. Leave Grandpa alone. You never cared about him. Emma's voice cut through the adult arguments, with surprising strength. When did any of you visit him in the hospital? When did you remember his birthday? Without being reminded? Linda turned on Emma with vicious sweetness. Young lady, adults are talking. You don't understand the complexities. I understand that you're all bullying an old man, because he won't give you money anymore. The hallway erupted in overlapping voices. Mark demanding respect for his parents. Sarah sobbing about homelessness. Thomas lecturing about family obligations. Linda guilt-tripping about ungrateful children. John whining about fairness. Only Emma remained quiet, standing slightly apart from the others, watching me with eyes that held more wisdom than her years should have allowed. Enough! My voice cut through their chaos like a blade. I gave Sarah and Mark $487,000 over 15 years. Weddings, mortgages, emergencies, opportunities. In return, I got forgotten birthdays, ignored hospital stays, and demands for more. That's what family does, Thomas sputtered. You help each other. Help flows both directions. This was exploitation. I stepped back into my apartment, hand on the door. Don't contact me again until you're ready to apologize. Emma, you're always welcome. The rest of you, learn to solve your own problems. The door closed with decisive finality. Through the wood, I could hear continued arguing. Mark's parents berating Sarah. Sarah crying. John complaining. Emma defending me. Against multiple adult voices. I walked to my kitchen window and waited. 20 minutes later, they emerged onto the sidewalk below, still arguing amongst themselves. Emma broke away from the group, looking up at my building. Even from 4 floors up, I could see her wave. The others climbed into Thomas's old pickup truck and drove away. Emma stood alone on the sidewalk for another minute before walking toward the bus stop. My apartment felt peaceful again. The silence was no longer empty. It was chosen. We're creating an irrevocable trust with your granddaughter as sole beneficiary. Robert Fisher explained, spreading documents across his mahogany conference table. April sunshine streamed through his downtown office windows, illuminating legal protections. I should have established decades ago. Nevada Asset Protection Trust provides additional creditor shielding, he continued, pointing to specific clauses. Even if your daughter attempts legal action, these assets remain untouchable. I signed each document with steady hands. The months since March had taught me the value of permanent barriers against manipulation. No more power of attorney arrangements. No more family emergency access to my accounts. International diversification for your pension, Robert suggested. Cayman Islands banking offers legitimate privacy protection. By noon, I'd built financial wall, higher than any guilt trip could scale. The wire transfers to offshore accounts felt like insurance policies against future emotional blackmail. House hunting with Kate Anderson resumed that afternoon. We drove through Kirkland neighborhoods, where silence costs more than downtown chaos. The cottage on Lake Washington spoke to me immediately. 2 bedrooms, wide deck overlooking water. Garden space for the vegetables Helen had always wanted to grow. Previous owner was also a veteran, Kate mentioned. As we walked the property, left it to his daughter, but she lives in California. Wants quick sale to someone who will appreciate it. I made an offer that afternoon. Full asking price, cash down, no inspection contingencies. The seller accepted within hours. Evening brought me to the Bathau Veteran Center for their weekly community dinner. Retirement had given me time for activities I'd neglected during my ATM years. The conversations flowed easily among men who understood service, sacrifice, and starting over. You look happier these days, Alex, commented Frank Patterson, whose garage job John had refused. Family situation resolved? I resolved myself out of it. Smart man. Family can bleed you dry if you're not careful. Mary Johnson was serving dessert when our eyes met across the dining room. Elegant silver hair, warm brown eyes, behind tasteful glasses. The kind of smile that suggested wisdom earned through experience, rather than naivety preserved through luck. Haven't seen you here before, she said, offering apple pie from a tray of homemade desserts. Recently started attending, Alex Miller. Mary Johnson, I volunteer here twice a week. Lost my husband 5 years ago, heart attack. Teaching kept me busy, but retirement needs structure. We talked until the janitor started stacking chairs. Mary had taught 4th grade for 37 years, raised 2 children who lived responsibly across the country, maintained her own home through competent independence, rather than family dependence. Perhaps we could continue this conversation? Over coffee sometime, I asked, as she gathered serving platters. I'd like that very much. The cottage purchase finalized within 3 weeks. I moved from downtown apartment to Lakeside Sanctuary, with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to travel light. The deck became my morning coffee destination, Lake Washington my evening meditation. Mary visited the second Saturday after I'd settled in, bringing homemade cookies and genuine interest in my new space. We sat on the deck watching sailboats navigate the lake, while discussing books, travel dreams, and the relief of building life around choice rather than obligation. Independence at our age feels revolutionary, she observed, accepting a second cup of coffee. I spent 15 years forgetting what it felt like. The phone rang as sunset painted the lake in copper tones. Emma's name on the display brought my first moment of family-related tension in weeks. "Grandpa, you're not going to believe what's happened." Emma's voice carried exhaustion mixed with vindication as Mary and I prepared salmon on the cottage deck. August evening light danced across Lake Washington, turning our barbecue into a golden hour celebration of simple pleasures. "Tell me," I said, settling into the deck chair. That had become my preferred spot for family phone calls. "Mom and Dad are divorcing. She filed papers last week. Says she finally realized Dad's business ideas were always fantasies." Mary raised an eyebrow, but continued seasoning vegetables with the quiet competence I'd grown to appreciate over our 4 months together. She understood family complexity, without needing detailed explanations. "I'm sorry to hear about the divorce, Emma, but everyone must face consequences of their decisions. Mom's working 70 hours a week between 2 jobs. Dad moved back in with Grandma Linda. His startup completely collapsed. Turns out he was terrible with money management." The irony wasn't lost on me. Mark, who demanded my investment in his business acumen, couldn't manage the finances he already had. Sarah, who'd threatened to kick me out for refusing support, was discovering what real financial independence required. "John called me yesterday," Emma continued. "He wanted your phone number." I tensed slightly. "What did he say?" "He's been working at Frank's garage for 2 months, making steady money, learning real skills. Says he wants to apologize and thank you." Mary smiled at this news, squeezing my shoulder gently. She'd heard the story of John's angry departure and understood the tough love philosophy behind my refusal to enable him. The phone rang again 20 minutes later. John's name appeared on the display. "Grandpa, I hope you don't hang up." "I'm listening." "I wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry for calling you mean." His voice carried a maturity I hadn't heard before. "Frank's been teaching me engine rebuilds. I'm earning enough to get my own apartment next month." "That's excellent news, John. I understand now why you wouldn't give me the money. I would have wasted it and learned nothing. Frank says I have natural talent, but talent needs work ethic." After the call ended, Mary and I sat, watching the lake while salmon finished cooking. A blue heron stood motionless at the water's edge, demonstrating the patience I'd finally learned myself. "You saved that boy from becoming like his father," Mary observed. "Tough love is still love." We'd been planning a September trip to Yosemite, my first vacation in 5 years that wouldn't be interrupted by family emergencies. Mary had mapped hiking trails appropriate for our ages, researched lodge accommodations, arranged for her neighbor to water plants. The anticipation felt foreign and wonderful. "Sarah texted me again today," I mentioned, as we moved food inside, asking if we could talk. "Are you ready for that conversation?" "I'm ready to maintain my boundaries, regardless of what she says." Mary's kitchen skills complemented my grilling abilities. We'd fallen into domestic routines that felt natural rather than obligatory. She maintained her own home 3 miles away, but stayed over frequently, contributing groceries, cooking expertise, and the kind of companionship that enhanced solitude rather than demanding it. The Veteran Center had become our regular Thursday evening activity. Mary's teaching background helped her connect with younger veterans struggling with civilian transitions, while my experience provided perspective on long-term adjustment strategies. "You know," Mary said as we cleaned dishes together, "I never thought I'd find partnership again at my age." Neither did I, especially not after learning how one-sided my family relationships had become. Through the kitchen window, I could see headlights turning into my driveway. The car looked familiar. Sarah's silver sedan, the one I'd helped her purchase 3 years ago. "Speaking of family relationships," Mary said quietly, following my gaze. Thanksgiving morning found Mary and me preparing dinner for our chosen family. Emma arriving from Tacoma at 2, John bringing homemade rolls from his new apartment at 3. The cottage kitchen smelled of turkey stuffing and the kind of contentment that comes from relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Emma texted that she's bringing pumpkin pie, Mary announced, checking the turkey's progress, with the competence of someone who'd orchestrated holiday meals for decades. "John's excited to show us pictures of his apartment," I replied, setting the dining table with my grandmother's china, pieces that had survived wars, moves, and family upheavals, to find purpose in celebration rather than obligation. The doorbell interrupted our preparations, with aggressive urgency. Through the peephole, Sarah's face appeared drawn, desperate, aged beyond her 48 years. She wore clothes I recognized from 2 years ago, carried herself with the defeated posture of someone who'd run out of options. "Dad, please open the door. I need to talk to you." Mary appeared beside me, offering silent support without interfering. 4 months of partnership had taught us to handle crisis together, while respecting each other's family boundaries. I opened the door but remained in the threshold. "Hello, Sarah." "Dad, I lost the apartment. Landlord evicted me last week. I'm staying at a motel, but I can't afford it much longer." Her voice carried desperation I'd never heard before, the sound of someone discovering that pride couldn't pay rent, that manipulation couldn't substitute for stability. "I'm sorry to hear about your housing situation. Please, one last time, help me. Just enough for first month's rent and security deposit. $5,000. I promise I'll pay it back." "I love you, Sarah, but help without responsibility won't save you." She pushed past me into the cottage living room, surveying the comfortable furniture, the lake view, the evidence of financial security she'd once taken for granted. "This is what you chose over your own daughter. A nice house while I'm homeless. I chose self-respect over enabling destructive patterns." Mary stepped forward with quiet authority. "Sarah, your father has tried helping for 15 years. Perhaps it's time to try helping yourself. Who are you to judge our family?" Sarah's voice rose to the level that had once intimidated me into compliance. "I'm someone who learned independence after my husband died. Your father is teaching you the same lesson." "Dad, this is cruel. Mom wouldn't approve of this treatment." The mention of Helen hit like a physical blow, but I'd prepared for this manipulation. "Your mother would want you to be strong, independent, capable of supporting yourself. She would be heartbroken, seeing what dependency had done to you." Sarah collapsed into tears, genuine this time, not performed for effect. "I don't know how to do this alone. I've never had to." "You're 48 years old, Sarah. It's time to learn." Emma arrived as Sarah was leaving, the two passing in the driveway, with barely acknowledged recognition. Emma entered carrying pumpkin pie and wearing the expression of someone who'd witnessed family drama from a distance. "Mom asked me to convince you to help her," Emma said, setting the pie on the kitchen counter. "What did you tell her?" "That you'd already helped more than enough, that maybe losing everything would teach her what working people already know." John arrived an hour later, with warm dinner rolls and pictures of his one-bedroom apartment. His face showed the satisfaction of someone earning his own security, his own pride, his own future. "Grandpa, I saw Mom leaving as I drove up. She looked upset. Your mother is learning hard lessons about responsibility." "Good," Mary said firmly. "Real love sometimes requires letting people face consequences." We gathered around the dining table. Alex, Mary, Emma, and John. 4 people who'd chosen to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial transaction. The turkey was perfectly cooked. The conversation flowed easily, and the gratitude felt genuine rather than obligatory. My phone rang during dessert. Sarah's name appeared on the display. I looked at the phone, then at Mary, Emma, and John seated around my table. People who valued my presence, not my bank account. People who contributed to conversations, rather than demanding solutions to self-created problems. I turned the phone off and set it aside. "More pie, anyone?" Outside the cottage windows, Lake Washington reflected the sunset in perfect stillness. Inside, chosen family gathered around a table, built on foundation stones of respect, independence, and love that enhanced rather than depleted. The silence felt complete. Before saying goodbye, if this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Don't forget to subscribe for more true family betrayal stories that reminds us we are stronger than we think.